Hello everyone, Matthew Hutchins from BlockApeScissors here, and our team is absolutely delighted to finally welcome the UniX gaming team to our community as we embark on an incredibly exciting journey into the BaaS metaverse for 2022 and beyond. So what's really exciting about this partnership is the common synergy that exists between play-to-earn gaming, GameFi, blockchain gaming, the gaming industry, and crypto, and of course, the guilds, bringing all of this gameplay together into something that's truly amazing in the future. At BlockApeScissors, we're creating something that's really quite special and unique. No one else has done anything like this before. And the ecosystem that we're building will include multiple game types, multiple game modes. As an example, the 1 vs 1 battle mode, which is PvP, with various different types of options and modes available. The Dungeon Runner, which we're in pre-production at the moment, which has PvP as well as co-op PvE, and the various different dungeons that will be available for different purposes, as well as coins. And of course, the Tower Defense, which will have PvP, co-op PvE, as well as guild and tribe PvP in terms of wars. So we'll have lots of games that we haven't also mentioned yet because there are Easter eggs down the track, but this will be a really exciting, rich and diverse ecosystem in terms of gaming with lots and lots of different opportunities coming your way. We offer the opportunity for all UniX players to engage with our ecosystem on many different levels that have zero barrier for entry, which in turn complements the types of players from various different types of backgrounds. So this is really important when we're looking at how the ecosystem can thrive over time. And we're focused on building something that's not only fantastic and fun, but sustainable economically over time. In addition, we're aiming very, very closely and specifically at bringing in Web2 companies into our ecosystem, into our models, along with high-profile brands in order to have brand placement and provide supplemental income that goes back to the guilds and players over time. This also allows us to navigate and educate people in the metaverse on what the metaverse has to offer and the benefits of utilizing the BaaS ecosystem for their products, for their launches, for their integrations, and how we can leverage the player base for the benefit of all over time. One final note, just before I leave you guys, I just want to mention that we are an open book and open canvas for our players and our guilds to be able to help write the script. So we highly encourage feedback, contributions from the UniX team and the community to further improve and aid our developments in this regard. It's really important that we build a community-focused project. So any way that you feel that you want to contribute or help and assist with governance or game ideas and these sorts of things to help improve the ecosystem, please feel free to jump into the BaaS Discord server. We have a highly experienced team who'll be happy to walk you through any processes or to hear what you have to say about how we can improve and continue building this journey together. Without further ado, I'd like to raise my glass in celebration to this new partnership and collaboration with UniX Gaming. Cheers, and we'll see you in the battlefield and in the jungle.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to today's special AMA. I'd like to say hi, and we've got a very, very special team and guest on today. So Matt, founder of BlockApeScissors. Matt, did you want to say hi to the community and give a little bit of introduction about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks everyone for joining the AMA today, and also for the opportunity with UniX Gaming. We are very honoured and proud, privileged to be involved with you guys moving forward. Really like your ethos and everything that you guys are about, and very happy to support everyone in the community, now and in the future. So my name is Matt Hutchinson. I'm from BlockApeScissors. I'm the founder, and our project essentially is all about building out a fair and open metaverse with multiple games, with a player-owned economy, multiple different types of tokens where we can really sort of balance the meta between all the different games, all the different assets, all the different offerings. And probably speaking to something that is really, the core of what we're about. Our mission is about being the number one, gaming or gamified metaverse ecosystem. But how we get there is something that the friends over at Animoca have sort of spoken to Yatsu. One thing that he mentioned through, a mentorship with Binance Incubation, he did speak to something called compound network effect. So as an example, Animoca, they have a subsidiary for Sandbox. They're highly involved with so many different metaverse projects. What we can actually do is we can pull, those assets into our ecosystem and apply those assets as modifiers, as boosts, as multipliers, and augment, the functionality that people have in these games with these external assets. And we can do the same thing with projects in terms of their tokens. So we can have, as an example, one particular game model we're going ahead with. It's called Metaverse Adventures, and there is a token, Metaverse Adventure aspect to it, which some people like to refer to as shitcoin adventures. Personally, I'm calling it altcoin adventures because I like to be a little bit more respectful. But there is a bit of a fun aspect to it. So, the purpose is that, take, for example, our latest partner, Mononoke. They obviously have quite a really, strong community behind them, and they're really passionate about their project. So what we'll be building out with them and for them is a branded and skinned exclusive Mononoke version of that metaverse adventure. And this specific implementation is our dungeon crawler, which is kind of like, I'd probably call it a nerfed version of something like Diablo 2 or Diablo 3.
Still a great game, though.
I'm a huge fan myself, so we could talk to that for hours, but we won't just now. But what we're doing is, I won't really give away the secret sauce, but we're making a lot more arcadey, a lot more kind of co-op and interesting and fun, and there will be some synergies between those mechanics, that you can have certain special combos that only exist between two types of classes. And these will have, inbuilt animations as well as amplified damage. I won't get into too much about it, but it will be a type of game where it's really cool to have, sort of these little parties and have, different dynamics and stuff, just to try out all these different combos and special moves, which are also amplified by all of your assets and stuff. So, drilling down, that's just one portion of our ecosystem. And I think what's really important here is that, so we have assets, from various different projects that have been successful in the past for NFTs. You have token projects, altcoins, bringing all those into our ecosystem and utilizing them and working with their communities. That alone creates a very incredible compound network effect. And then on top of that, we're also working with brands. So we have a number of brand partnerships in the works, and one that is getting positioned in accordance with our NFT Launchpad Can't mention who they are just yet, but I think people will be very excited when they hear who it is. And they will be embedding their NFTs in our games, in our environment, with apparel, with different things that are wearable, are usable. People can flex. There'll be early access. So our ecosystem is really providing what the metaverse should be doing in terms of providing opportunities for interaction, for aggregation, for that compound network effect, for additional use cases for other things that otherwise wouldn't have any utility, for ways that communities can interact with other communities borderlessly, where it never existed before. So this is where we're going to build towards, and we're starting with very specific components, building them together. So in terms of our ecosystem, what we're building, we have 4 different games that we're building towards, all with very specific different audience types, that then links into all the assets that get used. And then there's the play to earn feature, as well as the guilds coming in and interacting through tribes, the tribe mechanism. We'll have tribe wars, and we'll have leaderboards and rankings, and all of these different mechanisms that have been highly successful in other different, gaming applications. So bringing this all together, what we want to do is create a home where people can take any type of asset and apply it into a gaming metaverse or an ecosystem, and they can lend it, they can borrow it, they can trade it, they can do anything they want with it to create some kind of value for themselves. So this is really important because play to earn by itself is not sustainable. If you don't have other layers that lend themselves to having a circular economy or multi-layers, multi-tiers, you're simply relying on hype or increased player base to fuel that expansion in a linear or singular model. And there's problems with that, and we've seen them, through other projects. And we learned, specifically from that, we pivoted certain things that we were doing to make sure that we wouldn't run into those sorts of problems. And what we want to do is just make sure that, okay, so if we have a new trend that comes up, we have a way that we can adopt it. We have a way that we can apply it. We have a way that we can support it. And we have a way that we can change the meta of how this is going to interrelate to token supply, token demand, for the various ways that you can that you could earn, per se, and how this is going to provide value. Because if you don't have those little tweaks and knobs and buttons to change the supporting infrastructure for the economy or the environment that's being built, that's a problem. If smart contracts are rigid enough by themselves, if you can't change the fundamentals that leverage off those smart contracts, you're going to run into trouble. The metaverse is going to evolve at such a rapid pace that if it's not in a position where you can make these little adjustments to cater for increased player demand of a certain type, or increased player demand in a certain game, or things like botting, because we have computer vision, OCR, so many different types of ways that things can be happen. I mean, it happens. So you need to be ready to change things and switch things up. If you're not ready, I think people are planning for failure. So we certainly want to position this to the most malleable type of environment to support the optimal type of balance or rebalance mechanism that we need to do based on what the community really decides as we move forward. So our project is for gamers. It's for traders, it's for investors, it's for people that just want to flex, NFTs in a place that they walk around. There are lots of different avenues where we have an entry point that's important, that's personal, that's interactive for different types of actors. And what we're doing is not being done by anyone else on this level. So we're providing essentially a highway for other game studios, for brands, for projects that want to launch their own NFTs through a launchpad that have in-game applications with rev shares, rev splits. It's very comprehensive, and that's why we were talking earlier, Nick. I was like, there's so much to talk about, These AMAs usually go for a long time. I'll try and be brief, but I can't promise anything. So it's, you know, I love talking about our project. I love working on our project. I love our team. I love our community. I'm very grateful for everything that we've been able to achieve so far. We have an amazing team. I've probably just already mentioned that. And we had such an amazing opportunity with Binance, with incubation. We can touch on that as well. It's just brilliant to be introduced to so many amazing mentors and fathers in the space. Had a pretty cool conversation with CZ as well, which gets replayed in our community a couple of times. It's just, you know, we're 8 months old, and it feels like 8 years, honestly. Like, it's just been, and not in a bad way, in the sense that, like, 1 year in crypto is just, it's like 7 years. It really is. Just because so much happens, you learn so much, things change so much, so many trends. There's world events, there's macro impact, there's all this stuff. So you've got to constantly be on your toes. And it's 24/7. It doesn't go away. Like, there's no, you know, trading is stopped because Wall Street's closed. Forget all that, you know. And people come in on the weekends. They come in at 2 a.m. Doesn't matter. You know, I've had AMAs that go from 2 a.m. and finish at 6 in the morning. This is crypto, and you honestly, you can't beat it. But crypto and gaming, and, you know, potentially if we go into some of the altruistic stuff that we were touching on earlier, Nick, you know,
it might seep into that point. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, look, you know, the ability to potentially, I'm not saying this as, you know, there's nothing certain, the ability to potentially, you know, cater to making people's lives better is really exciting. Obviously, the core point for what we want to do is build sustainable ecosystems, sustainable models, and as a core responsibility, we have a duty of care and a right to look after our investors, our holders, our players. So, you know, I know there's a number of projects out there that have enormous treasuries, and I sit there and I think, why do you have all this money? What are you doing with it? Why haven't you put it back into your community? Why haven't you given it to players, to guilds, you know, implemented reward structures, built something else in? Why? Like, that's money that it's just sitting there. It doesn't make sense. And, you know, if we make a bunch of profit, you know, we will look at different ways that we can either expand to get even better, kind of counterbalancing how we're going to make sure that we keep rewarding our players, our community members, our holders, incentivization strategies, all of these different things. It's too important, you know, because without your community, you're dead. Without your players, you're dead. You more or less have to start all over again. And whilst reinventing yourself is great, you know, you can always pivot. But if you lose, you know, faith or confidence from your holders, from your community, from your investors, it's the worst thing that can happen. So, you know, I think if we did have a lot of money, we would make sure that we have a really balanced ecosystem where multiple different types of people that are interacting are getting rewarded, so that it can continue to grow and that we can also support those people that really need it, you know, from the play to earn side. Because just having play to earn by itself is flawed. It doesn't work. The money has to come from somewhere, which is, of course, where compound network effect can really thrive. But yeah, it at the end of the day, it would be amazing, you know, success for me personally, if we did have a really great, positive, enormous impact on a variety of different developing nations, people that really deserve, you know, a much better quality of life. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So, that's the thing.
Variety of different denominations, people that.
And yeah, but other than that, we just want to really build cool stuff and build amazing games. Like, for me personally, this is not about money. I know it's the same for Dan. Yes, money's great. That's really fantastic. The reality of life is that money comes and goes. It does not make you happy. Yes, it facilitates new things and fun, exciting toys and all that kind of stuff. But you get over it. Look, to be honest, you just do. This is not what life's about. You want to get to the age of 80 or 90 and look back and be like, I had so much money. Or do you want to get back and look at it and just be like, we did this, As an example, you look at guys like D Hock, the CEO of the original creator of Visa. Brilliant man, absolutely brilliant man. And the vision that he had based on linking a payment network together for the central banks was absolutely visionary, and he wanted to do something amazing. He wanted to build something and pioneer something that was truly visionary. And he slaughtered it. He absolutely knocked it out of the park. And still to this day, some of the things that he's written are absolutely so profound. I highly recommend anyone having a look at D Hock's work. It's just amazing. And if the legacy or I think the measurement of a man or a collective group of people that can really make a difference, I think is weighed or measured in the amount of impact that they have made in a division of society that is able to move forward for social gain and for some kind of important progression. And we would really love to make a really big impact where we're changing the paradigm based on what is possible in business and entertainment. I think that is something profound. I don't want to look back and be like, yeah, money. I want to look back and go, we created this model that is so cool that my daughter's daughter was able to leverage business systems, business models of, a secondary model that lives inside the metaverse, and it was purely based on influencer economy from a metaverse position. It was selling a product. It was inside a game. It was also inside this VR thing. Like, you just don't know where it's going to go. The point is, you have to build something to make it happen. And the collective impact of all these people coming together, getting ideas. I mean, guilds didn't even exist, 2 to 3 years ago. And look where it is now. It's phenomenal. It's just absolutely phenomenal. It's entire new business models based on GameFi, blockchain games, all these things coming together. What's going to happen in the next 2 years, 10, 20? We want to be there. We want to be like, this is what it's about. You really want, to be successful in this space. I think you really have to want to get in there, to get your hands dirty, to drive things forward, to make amazing things, to pioneer, to groundbreak. And from our perspective, I firmly believe that we have the best NFT tech out there for games, because as far as I know, we're the only ones that know how to do it really well with NFTs that are on chain. All the metadata's on chain, which means it's smart contract targetable. We can run events, we can run competitions, we can target very specific NFTs, at least ours, that are subcategories or traits or anything like that, for in-game items, for item drops, for competitions, reward structures, royalties, you name it, we can do it. Our tech's the best. And that's the tip of the iceberg. I can't even mention the other stuff that the guys are working on. But it is really cool. But you will
on a future AMA, you will.
Yes, on a future AMA, I will. But, some of these things are definitely going to set us up in the future.
That's amazing.
Because it's just going to make life so much easier and so much more compatible. I won't say anything else.
Yeah.
But it's really cool. And I think that's, what sets us apart? I mean, there are plenty of teams out there that are good. They're good teams. We have a team that's like enormously passionate and enormously skilled in different areas. So we have a new game dev team. I say they're new because the bulk of them have really only been added this year. I've been on the hunt. Between just four guys, they've got like 60 years experience in game development with some AAA titles, and between them they've been involved with I think 30 to 35 different titles for like really high profile publishers. These guys know how to do games. They know what they're doing, and we will very gradually and casually poach everyone on the planet. This is true. I'm happy to make that statement. But these guys just love games. They love making games, and I love getting involved with them because one of the product research things we did, we jumped into a game, four of us in co-op, and went through a dungeon and sorted it, and it was so much fun. I was like, I sat back and I thought to myself, holy, this is the best. I finally have a job that I don't really consider a job because I just love everything that I do, but I get to play games and call that work. Are you serious? And we sit there and we pull apart all these things. We're like, yeah, this is good, but we need more things that get destroyed. We need more items, and we need more this, we need more that. And there should be much more co-op interplay and synergies, and this should be faster, and this screen's too low and the camera's too high up, all these sorts of things. And these guys are serious, like they're on a whole other level. I'm just very grateful that we have some serious firepower on our game development team. But notwithstanding, we have all these other teams that are completely different sets of skills, and remarkable diversity amongst our team. All these individuals coming together, and it's just amazing to see. Like, one thing that has really gone amazingly well is the culture. Like, our culture is really, really phenomenal. Like, there's just so many passionate people. I personally have to tell people to take time off. Isn't that just nonsense? Like, I have concerns about the health of my team sometimes. I'm just like, you have spent so much time on this. Please take a day off. Please, I want to make sure everyone is looking after themselves, because they just get in there and they just get everything done, which is amazing.
Say leadership stems from the top, right, and trickles down. And for everyone that's watching this, I think you can clearly tell like the passion that Matt has for his team, his baby, his project, and I think that it's really great to see the rest of your team resonate with that passion as well, and instill in themselves and in their beliefs. So,
thanks, Nick. I appreciate that. I really do. I think one of the really, really important lessons that I learned specifically on my journey towards hiring people and understanding, how to build a successful culture, because there's different types of culture that you can build. We want to build the right one that's based on positivity, support, encouragement. It's very similar to Satya Nadella from Microsoft. Amazing guy. 7 years in a row, most underrated CEO in the world. Unbelievable. When he first came on as CEO, he gave all of his directors a book by Mr. Rosenberg. I'm sorry, I can't remember his first name, but it's called Nonviolent Communication, and it's all about finding solutions, being solution driven, supporting and not being overly critical and not putting people down, building a positive culture where people can fail and be okay with that, but look at how they can improve, and support that improvement and build team unity and trust and autonomy, all those things, right? It's a big thing, but ultimately what came down for me that I learned was a really, really big lesson, was you hire attitude and you train skills. It's just hugely important. Yes, of course there are. Yeah, like, I mean, so as a startup anyway, like, you know, when you're a startup, you very much hire people generally, you know, on general skill sets. And then as you expand, you hire very specialist, you know, skills and those sorts of things. But if you hire someone that's purely on skills, and they don't have that same culture, they don't have that same attitude, they don't fit with the team, they don't gel, you know, you can run into some really huge challenges. I found that out in other jobs, I can tell you. And no amount of skill set's gonna make that team synergy work, or, you know, help them deliver on things if they're not motivated, if they're not enthusiastic. So, you know, making sure that attitude is aligned, especially across teams, because that's a big thing. You know, some people speak tech and some people speak marketing. If they don't mix, you know, you have a challenge. So the team is just phenomenal. I can't be more happy with how it's building and how everyone's going. And you know, like every project, you have your challenges. But I'm really happy to say that our challenges are really quite superficial on that front. And yeah, the right people are just coming at the right time, Nick. It's just, I feel really, yeah, I'm sort of, without getting esoteric, I'm just very grateful that these things are happening. You know, things happen at the right time. We said we get here,
wouldn't we? We did say we
did. we did. Yeah, that esoteric moment again.
Yeah.
But you know, it's so getting back to the team. It is. I think you did have questions about that.
Yeah, and just I think I really want to just emphasize at this point in time, after everything that you've talked about, Matt, that like one of the things that we try to do at UniX, for example, with our community, is not only teach them about, yes, we've got our education side of things where we teach them about crypto, because most of them are first timers into it, and there's like you said, a duty of care to make sure that they're navigating this space correctly and safely. But at the same time, as gamers, and as you probably well know, the traditional gaming is quite toxic in some sense in some communities.
Oh, yes.
So when it comes into esports, when it comes into the pressures of professional players, we really want to also not only educate people on, let's say, the basic educational courses of English, math, science, all these things, but also when it comes down to a mindset, when it comes down to how do you become self-aware enough and conscious of your emotions that you feel, and how do you conduct yourself as a professional. I think these are really, really important for a gamer in any case, in this kind of a space, especially when you're streaming. We have a lot of streamers and a lot of followers, and they also get a lot of FUD coming their way for multiple sorts of things. So this is something that we want to try and instill in our team and instill in our community. I see. Yep. And something that I think a lot of points that you've touched on now are really important. So, I mean, this conversation, I know it's a bit different to our traditional. We have an AMA with a project, and then they go through the project. But for the community that's listening, this, what I would say is really important to even go back, watch it again, share it with your family, share it with your friends, and see how just having a different perspective and just educating yourself and becoming more self-aware is important. So sorry, man, I had to swing it that way for a second.
I absolutely love this topic, Nick. I'm huge on mindfulness and self-development, personal development, even getting into, you know, a word called consciousness. So I just love the space. I think that, so I whenever possible, whenever the day is open, I really try to do meditation. I think it's really, really important. And there are many different types, there are many different approaches. Whatever works for you works, but it does work. So, you know, I really believe that mindfulness and approaching things with an open heart is hugely important. So kind of segue, small tangent before Dan drops in.
Yep, for sure.
Is that so? I used to play competitive 8-ball.
Okay.
I used to be quite good at it. And I remember one thing. So I got all the way to A grade, and I was winning some comps and all that sort of stuff. And it took me 3 years to get there. A lot of table time. Really, really love the game. But it's very tactical, very strategic. But you can, on that level of competition, it's so tense. And it's a very physical game. You don't realize actually how physical pool, is, because your stance, your posture, all has to be correct. You also have to be very relaxed. You need a very fluid motion and a robotic, arm for how you're going to cue. You have to think about strategy and tactics, because, literally you're one shot away from losing at that level. And it's just, it becomes more about being in your center, being in that mindset and that approach that is unbreakable. No one can kick you out of it. No one can get in the way of it. No one can disrupt it. No one can distract you. And it's the same with any, I think, highly competitive, high-level sport. You get into a zone, you get into a flow, and that flow state enables you to just block everything out and just be everything that you've trained for. Everything that you're executing then is just a run sheet of all of your hard work. And this comes down to, a lot of training, a lot of personal development, a lot of mindfulness, and this, it works, it really does work. So we could talk about this. I really love talking about this stuff.
We can get on again.
I really look forward to it, actually, because I didn't realize that we would end up in this stuff. And this is kind of a passion of mine. I really, really do enjoy it. And it really does help. There's a big idea that is essentially that the reality that you live in or you exist in is simply just a mirror of your internal thoughts. It's very, very relevant. Yeah. So, these things are, they're interesting topics that I believe in, and I think that it really does set the tone. And yeah, it's amazing. I think everyone should work in some area of personal development. I might drop a little quote from Emerson here. He who is not every day conquering some fear has not learnt the secret of life.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's a big one. I love that one. Emerson's amazing. So anyway, I really enjoyed that. Thank you so much, Nick.
No worries. I did a very. I see Dan here, eager to come in.
Yeah, we should probably let him in.
We'll bring it back, Dan. Just checking if you're.
Hi there.
There you are.
Hello.
Hey there.
Our samurai has joined.
Yeah. Dan's come in to the call going, yep, of course, they're on this. No worries. Welcome, Dan.
So Dan's our CTO. And how much time have you got, Dan, just before things?
I mean, I've got 45 minutes to an hour, so
okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess I'll swing it back into the. I guess we talked about a little bit about actually a lot of things about the project right now, how you're really attracting different demographics, making sure that it doesn't matter if you're an investor, if you're a gamer, or if you're just let's say someone from a guild, it's easily accessible, and everyone's going to love to play it. So you mentioned a few things around taking any NFTs that are on chain and being able to utilize this within your game somehow. Does that mean under what smart chain, for those of the community that don't know, what are we looking at here? Multi-chain, or where are you guys planning to go, I guess, is the better question.
Yeah, so really one of the real pain points, I guess, for crypto and gaming, etc. right now is going to be Web 2 and Web 3. You've got all these game developers who are extremely good at developing on Web 2 and stuff, but they might not understand Web 3 too well. So really, as kind of specialists in Web3, we kind of really aim to fill that gap. And we're building out a game studio web, got guys who've built lots of games in Web2, etc. But really, we're trying to fill that gap and build that infrastructure so the Web3 is accessible. Within that, we kind of like to think of blockchain, etc. as like an asset database. All these NFTs and stuff, in the end, they're just digital assets sitting in your wallets.
That's right.
Sure, some have utility on chain, etc., but also within games, which are going to be on a centralized server infrastructure in the end, at least for now, until someone figures that out. But
could be you guys.
Yeah. I'm not going to say anything. But basically, we kind of want to build that layer so that they can use, so that literally every asset that we allow players to, some assets might just be like consumables dropped within game and stuff. But really, all the assets that you have in game, they persist and they become NFTs. So we want to reach the stage where we attract both crypto audiences, where they connect up their crypto wallet and they get all their assets, but also whereby traditional gamers who don't know anything about crypto can come on and they can buy assets and stuff in game, and those assets are turned into NFTs. But to them, they don't really see anything. They then get the option of make a crypto wallet, etc., move over. But the point is that we want everything to seamlessly be an NFT without the consumer necessarily understanding it. Clearly, the crypto audience will understand this, but then it's also a way to bring in new people. And what I'm trying to get to is that because we treat the blockchain as an asset database, where we're mostly reading ownership of it, we will essentially look to be multi-chain. The actual BaaS NFTs, where we implement our economy, play to earn, etc., will mostly be on one chain. We're still really, initially they're probably going to be BSC, and then we may bridge to a different chain because of gas costs, efficiency, etc. But we're still kind of looking at that. But the main thing is that, because we want to read ownership of other NFTs. So say, we might partner with, X big NFT project, and then, we may find either like new game modes or a specific game, etc., where we can integrate their NFTs. It's really not a problem for us to just, you as a user. The fun thing about EVM chains is that you have the same wallet address, for all of them. It gets a bit trickier with non-EVM chains, like Polkadot stuff, but really there's enough NFTs on EVM chains to access plenty. And the point is, you link that wallet address to your email password, and then when you come into game, we instantly know where all your NFTs are. Maybe you've got BaaS Gamesters on BSC, and then you've got Bored Ape Yacht Clubs on Ethereum, Azuki on Ethereum, and then you've got, don't know any projects on Polygon, but you might have NFTs on Polygon too. When you come into game, you've already linked your wallet address to your account, and you just see them all there. And then there'll be various things you can do with them. But that's really where we want to get to. So my response to that would be, the infrastructure will be multi-chain. The BaaS NFTs for play to earn, etc., that we develop will be on one chain, but the vision for games and implementation is multi-chain.
Great. And I think, as you know, UniX, we're a guild. So a lot of our scholars and a lot of our community members, guild members, always interested in terms of the startup costs. As you know, Axie back in June or July, there was about 2,500 startup cost to get a team and get into the game. Quite high, right? Quite a high barrier to entry. And then just recently we have Sin City. I don't know if you guys have seen that game as well, but they actually have free NFTs, I guess, to start off with, depending on if you want to get more skills or whatnot. But essentially, you can start off for free. So for BlockApeScissors, do you insight or the community some insight in terms of, do they need to buy an NFT to start? what does that look like in terms of a cost? And is there a team of 1, 2, 3? I know that Matt talked about like a dungeon crawler. So does that mean that everyone has to choose a class? And does that class constitute some sort of cost associated to it?
It's a really interesting question. Do you want to take it, Dan, and I'll add on the end?
Yeah. We want to keep the cost accessible. Within that concept of not only making games for a purely crypto audience, but also for a greater consumer base. We're not going to be able to attract, mainstream gamers and stuff by having incredibly high costs. Really, the point is to build a very deep immersive economy. A good thing to compare would be World of Warcraft, where at the base level, you're just buying like level 1 apes, and then you can play and you can level them up, etc. as you play. And the point is, those apes, based on how we'll trigger the economy in different ways, supply, etc., to make sure that these level 1 apes that are getting bred are always cheap and accessible to users. We're trying to think about a purely free-to-play option. However, when you do free-to-play with play-to-earn, you end up in the issue of bots. So that's something that we really need to figure out before. I'm sure like Axie's had issues. A lot of play-to-earn games have had issues. So it remains to be seen. I can't really explain there because we don't yet have a proper solution. But on the point of view, we won't expect people to spend huge amounts of money to access the game. We want to make it, you buy your level 1 ape and you start off and it's low level. We also want to have a scholar mechanic. We're trying to figure out the incentives. We're going to set up the scholar mechanic so that it's completely trustless, so that you don't have to, trust your scholar or trust the owner, but it's all escrow based. But then, the incentivization of how, because you're an ape and you win tokens that you level up and breed your ape. So if you're being scholared, we need to figure out how exactly that split works and how a user who initially just gets scholared can kind of like eventually reach independence, can eventually play and through merits and playing well, etc., then have his own NFT and not just level up his owner's NFT. So there's a couple things we still have to figure out, but the main thing is that seeing as we have we have 8 characters, which is what you need to start playing and earning bananas. I don't know how much Matt's gone into detail with this.
Not at this level, not yet.
You are, and,
he was saving it for you, Dan.
But the point is that we want that to be very accessible to everyone. And there's going to be a marketplace where you can buy apes with different traits, etc. But then is where our kind of like upper tier things are like items. As you kind of get more into the game, etc., then you can start itemizing your apes to play harder levels, more competitive games, etc. And when we have leaderboards, and then eventually you want to build up to esports and concepts of tribes, a lot of stuff in there really that we still have to deconstruct and bring the entire information. But the point is that low barrier of entry, allowing us to have a very big player base, but then a lot of depth and a lot of comparing, I guess, to a game like Hearthstone. Hearthstone's like free to play. Everyone can jump in, make a base deck and start playing. But if you want to really get competitive and reach the top, it's hard to do it without spending money. It's possible, but you really have to grind your way up. So we have that kind of thing. Anyone can get in, get playing, but as you start leveling up, things get more competitive. And you're either really grinding out to get items and stuff, or you have to start buying them from the marketplace. And this is where that play-to-earn opportunity comes for like a grinder who is grinding out. He's a good player, he's a strong player, and he's making these items. And then he's essentially selling them to those people who just kind of want to play on a very competitive level. They're not in it for the full grind. They're just like the kind of guys who buy Hearthstone packs or buy, level 50 battle passes on Call of Duty. Like that's the kind of mentality. And this is, we're trying to think a very sustainable way in which people can play to earn, long term.
I think you've summed up really well, Dan, and probably just to add to that, I think that depth or that range that we're really aiming for is really the key. There needs to be multiple avenues of entry points that have no barrier for entry, and that is a base level, and there can be reward structures, rankings and leaderboards and stuff that's based on that. And then you have I guess the level where you have leveled up apes that maybe don't have NFTs as buffs, etc., and they're their own sort of I guess gray ranking category. And then you have more that have some leveled up ape characteristics, traits, etc., and levels, and have some NFTs. There's going to be some serious gray areas because you're going to have multiple multipliers. You'll have the ape levels, you'll have the traits that apply in different ways, and the stats, and then you'll have NFTs. You'll also have different buffs. So as an example, there'll be power-ups that are introduced and involved. So if they know that they can have a one-shot power-up, to get them over the line for something, that's also another way that they can play it. And then at the sort of top tier, you have obviously where you guys are going to be in terms of guilds, where you have aggregation strategies, and then looking at forming tribes. Those tribes have very specific benefits. There's tribe wars, there's tribe-only types of modes and competitions. This is the real top tier, where you're likely to get, your career-based players that are really going to absolutely look at every single detail and figure out how they can game everything, get the most out of it. Those people are going to aggregate, they're going to work together. And that will be, what we're affectionately, guys, terming G sports, guild sports. It won't just be esports, it'll be guild sports, guild versus guild, cross-chain, cross-game guilds. Who's the best at these games? Worldwide ranking leaderboards of guilds across all games, all chains. I can't wait for that. That's going to be really exciting. But there are some really challenging questions and problems to be answering, which I'm quite sure Dan's hair will be grey in a couple of years from doing these sorts of questions. But they're amazing problems to fix. Is how do we build an ecosystem that caters to zero barrier for entry, that is balanced enough to support a play to earn aspect, that has all of these different ranges and interaction points into the games, into trading, into having all these different potential opportunities where people could make some type of gain through their labors, through their trades, through whatever this might be. And maybe they just want to level up an ape, throw it on the marketplace, sell it. That ape might have very specific characteristics that are very, very attractive for one type of game, or a spell book, or be able to portal into a dungeon and take down that main boss that has a vulnerability to that specific type of trade or skill. There's so many options. I tell you, the team's looking at all this stuff. It is mind blowing. The things that we're setting up, it is literally. So if we examine it, what we did is we looked at all of the different types of successful things that are out there in regular gaming. So you have, and not just the regular gaming, also SaaS models as well. So regular gaming, what do we have, Dan? We had CSGO, we have Fortnite, we have Roblox, we have Hearthstone, we have World of Warcraft, basically all the Blizzard Activision models, which is amazing. What makes them successful? Why are people spending $2 billion on accessories and skins in Fortnite? Why are people buying all these loot boxes in CSGO? What is the fundamental reason? What's the psychology behind it? What's the emotional value? Because they're not able to take it and do it, anything else in any other game, apart from Roblox. That is probably one of the first metaverse projects, realistically. But what is the commonality with all these models? What are we looking at? We go to the chemical level. Is it dopamine? what is it? So looking at these things, we've kind of like broken them down and compartmentalized them in granular form and formed very specific approaches to things, which we believe have a really high chance of success. In terms of incorporating those models into player-owned economies and having asset transition and enabling, cross-platform, cross-chain, cross-game interoperability, providing these different ways that people can interact, building an economy around it, having different layered token application models that we can tweak, balance the meta and do all these things, is very well thought out. And there's so much involved. Every week we have product council, which consists purely of gamers from our team, where we talk about all these kinds of things. We look at mechanics. We look at, okay, so what do the ape characters have? What stats are they? What do the stats do? What do they mean? What's their purpose? How do they relate to their skills? We're actually calling them traits. What do those traits do? What do they enable in game? How does this impact? What's the modifiers? There's a lot to go into. And then we have, how do these NFTs implement over the top? How many can we put on them? What are the modifiers in terms of, level caps versus nerfing them in different games? How does that correlate to dungeon levels? How does that correlate to reward structures? It's such a very complex, amazing thing to build. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Dan's sitting there going,
yeah.
But yeah, it's a
lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
I've got actually a question, I guess, from a guild's perspective, right? Where if the game, I love the fact that it doesn't have a high barrier to entry. It means that it's easier for mass adoption from traditional games. And the sentiment that I've received from traditional games is that they hate NFT gaming. Not too sure why, but I think that they're getting around. A lot of them are coming around and seeing the benefits of it. But from a guild's perspective, where if UniX came into this game and as a tribe, and let's say that we have a Neo Tokyo Citizen, Moon Bored Ape, and these bring certain traits or skills or abilities to our in-game apes. In a sense, is there some sort of balancing system there where, like you said at the beginning, Matt, where you have some of these other bigger guilds who have a lot of cash and now it becomes a kind of pay to win model again, right? So I don't know, like from a tribe's perspective, if they've got 3 times the amount of capital to throw at us, are we quite a disadvantage here, or what are you planning to put in place to sort of help balance that? And maybe if it's not even a guild like UniX, maybe it's maybe a squad, right? That's even smaller, and they don't have these NFTs. Does that mean that they'll never be able to compete at those higher levels, or if they eventually grow to compete at those high levels? Or yeah,
such a great question. Do you want to go first, Dan?
Yeah. So really, I guess a good way to think about tribes is a mix between esports teams and guilds, right? What we're trying to do with these tribe mechanisms is, because the BAS ecosystem has this ingrained like tribe staking mechanism or tribes locking. I mean, it's just semantics there. But what happens is that people constitute a tribe, and once they constitute a tribe, there's a tribe alpha and there's a council, and then there's some interesting mechanics there to challenge the alpha, etc. But the point is that the alpha's job essentially is kind of like the CEO of a company. He's supposed to find investors, so people with cash. It can, if it's already a guild, then clearly you'd assume that they have cash, who basically have a lot of BAS, and then skilled players. And basically what happens is that the tribe, the investor class people stake their BAS into the tribe, and all the other players who are brought in basically get a boost on how much they win when they play based on the average BAS of the tribe. So say, for example, I'm a player, I've bought a level 1 ape for $3, and I'm just starting to play right now, and basically you're playing, and on the leaderboards you get really good at the game, and the leaderboards reflect this. Then at some stage there's a guild, call it UniX guild, UniX tribe, sorry, because we want to go with tribes with the ape theme.
That's good.
But the point is that you're sitting at the top, and you've got a lot of investors who've staked their BAS into your tribe, and then you basically see this player and you're like, this guy looks like he's talented, and so you basically invite him into your tribe. And now what happens is that he goes from having like a 0 BAS like owned level to like a 200 BAS owned level, and this means that when he plays, he naturally wins more. So to some degree, this kind of can be thought of as like going that direction of pay to win. But the important thing is that these things let you level up and get your NFTs up at a higher level quicker, and then also level up your items, etc. You get your ape to a higher level, you can go play like higher level dungeons, which then give you higher level loot box tokens, so you get higher level items and stuff. But the concept really is that we'll have systems in place so that a player who doesn't have a lot of cash but is good at the game, his skill is reflected on leaderboards, so that the tribes will I'm a believer in like the free open market, in the sense that if you're sitting there at the top of a tribe, you're naturally going to want to look at who the best players are. And the interesting thing is that we've set up this mechanic with the tribe alphas, whereby if you're not doing a good job as the tribe alpha, you can get challenged by someone else. So you have to be very careful about who you let into your tribe. And there's actually something to lose. So you actually, being a tribe alpha, you clearly have a lot of benefits because you're the leader of the tribe. At the same time, when you get challenged, whoever loses the ape NFT that they've kind of put there. So it's not like you'll necessarily be losing like loads of money, but there's still that interplay, and it also creates a burn mechanic. But the point is that if you're doing a very good job, you're finding very high skill players, you're bringing them into your tribe, they're playing, you're giving those players the opportunity to show off their skill and to move up fast, and then you clearly have investor class people. And the end result really is that similar, I guess, I'm the kind of guy who plays few games obsessively, but in Hearthstone there's a bit of a barrier to get competitive. You either grind loads, or like at some stage you're probably going to buy some packs, etc. But there's kind of a plateau, in the sense that at some stage it's not pay to win anymore. It's not like you can just spend hundreds and thousands, right, and then you're winning. At some stage it's like you have a competitive meta deck, maybe you've got a couple, and there it starts to becoming like who's really applying themselves, who's studying the meta, who's studying the population, understanding what people are playing, trying different strategies, trying different things in order to level up. And that's where like we also plan on, initially it's kind of a process. Most games, when they start off competitively, there's usually some imbalances. Even when you introduce new aspects, there's imbalances. So, that's a gradual process. But the end goal really is to have it so that at a certain stage, it's like anyone who has a reasonable amount of NFTs and items and stuff is like now in that competitive field, and it's not like they can just spend thousands of dollars to be competitive.
To some degree, the skill needs to come in.
Yeah, I think what's really important, Des nice. Really given it a really good general brush there, and I think what's also really important to add is that the types of ranking systems and leaderboards and reward structures are not going to be developed linearly. There'll be lots of different avenues, lots of different opportunities, and probably more towards the end of having tribes form. You'll also be able to have wars, which will be based on allegiances with people, different sort of tribes coming together, facing off against other tribes with different types of reward structures entirely. But looking at reward mechanics specifically, there's an expectation, I think, from everybody that these types of things will have balance mechanisms. So you can't just purely support pay to win. There needs to be an avenue that provides obviously some opportunities and some potential bonuses. Obviously, if you really well kitted out, you can get to that top rung, and that top rung, offers you some advantages. But in saying, more to what Dan's spoken about, is that you might have all of the options in the world, but if you're not playing them properly or appropriately, or your skills aren't really that great, you don't actually have that edge. There needs to be elements here where there is skill and competitive, tenacity that gets relied upon at the tribe level, because there needs to be a reason why tribes that are built from the ground up with hardly any cash or hardly any assets have opportunities to grow, to climb that leaderboard if they're good. So this is a really big factor in things that need to be built into the ecosystem. All these different things get discussed at Product Council, as well as, Dan and I have very, very long conversations about these sorts of things, because it is really important. So as an example, I play Era of Chaos, which is the latest Heroes of Might and Magic version that's on mobile. And it is, I'm sorry for anyone that might be listening that's at Ubisoft. It's an amazing game, but it is so heavily weighted in favor of people that pay, that it is impossible to get to any level where it's rewarding in terms of winning certain battles or opportunities or anything like that. Going into, Battle of the Gods or anything, you can't do this unless you're paying a lot of money for weapons, emblems, all these different things. I personally don't think this is how it should be. There should be lots of different opportunities, no matter what level you are, no matter what type of formation you have, which faction you chose, which emblems you're wearing, where you get whacked into a division of people at a random group that are around the same level, and then it should be up to your skill. It should be up to you to battle it out versus these people and create your own opportunity to win. That incentivizes people to actually actively play. And that's a really key factor, is that you can't just expect people to blindly throw money at things and hope that they're gonna hit the top rung and get some, almost unattainable rewards. I think it's just, I think that model is going to be phased out. If I'm to be honest, there needs to be rewarding structures for all different types of players at all different spend levels, all different asset ownership levels, all different ape character levels, individually as well as tribe. So that's what's going to get past my desk, and that's what we'll work towards. And it is complex, but all of these things are built in such a way that there are these little micro things that we can, imagine like a really big old mainframe, where people were doing all the telephone switching, all these knobs and stuff everywhere. That's kind of what we, that's there. That's the stuff that we need to build out to make this really, granularly changeable and adjustable, because, as I mentioned before, smart contracts are immovable and immutable enough. So then adding reward structures and stuff over the top that are like set in stone and like big monoliths that can't be changed or don't appeal to everybody, I disagree. So I'll fight tooth and nail for all the players, all the different types of players out there, that there is some avenue, some reward structure that appeals to them. Because if you as a gamer are getting into a game and you don't have something that's appealing, let's say a seasonal opportunity in your ranking that is attainable based on your involvement and your effort and your potential, success of being competitive and being mildly skillful, it's not worth your time. And every gamer knows this. They know it in here and they know it in here, and they're just not. If you play a couple of seasons of something, the dopamine wears off if you're not actually getting rewards, or you're not achieving, or you're not getting further. If you hit an endpoint and you can't go any higher because you need to spend money, or you're not getting rewarded, or it's meaningless because your name's not up in lights, or whatever the reason, there's plenty of them. But if those reasons continue to happen and you're not getting any further, that game is dead to them. Absolutely dead. So yeah, that kind of sums it up. It's super important we get those mechanisms there for everyone.
Actually, that is a nice little segue into one of the main topics that we always like to bring up with any new project. Well, I know you guys aren't new, but any project really. Still new, but you guys are doing a lot of new things that are going to make this really interesting. And I think, Dan, this is where I wanted to give you the floor. Around the tokenomics, we've spoken about the reward system. We've spoken about giving equal opportunity to players of all levels, of all classes, of all, really at all stages. And how does that? Could you maybe give us an overview of how it all works with everything that we've discussed right now, and then kind of again back on the burning mechanisms or the utilities of the token? I think on the website, if the community have gone and seen, you've already got like a staking function in there as well. Is that tie into the game somehow? So would you be able to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah. So there's a couple different things that we're going to be looking to do with our token. One of the very base play to earn mechanisms that we're going to support is play to earning through beta testing. Seeing as we want to build lots of different games.
Beta testing.
We want to have lots of different games. So really, we need to cultivate a player base that is going to play those new games, which are going to be clunky, sort of like early access and stuff. And through that, there's going to be some conditions. Right now, we have a champion mechanism where you need to own an NFT. And due to a vote, we also made it a requirement to hold a lot of BAS. We're going to see how this evolves over time. Right now, the BAS token doesn't have much as a utility because we're still building all of these things. So we had to bring in that requirement because it was, our investors were saying this isn't right. But really, we still have a lot of BAS tokens for emissions that have been allocated, and that over time, as we release new games, there's going to be this continuous stream. So as a beta testing play to earner, you can play all of these new games that we're releasing, and by simply offering feedback and putting in the effort to explore the different elements of the game and tell us what you think and help us improve these games, you'll essentially earn. So that's kind of like a very base thing, and you're going to earn BAS. What you then choose to do with that BAS is up to you. Then, a lot of these considerations that we're making, by the way, are to do with, worrying about how gambling and crypto and that entire thing is going to play out in the future with regards to governments banning it. Like you've seen South Korea, they recently took a very anti-play to earn thing. So we're trying to basically follow how play to earn has kind of worked previously, and trying not to coincide. So the second way, really, the more traditional play to earn is by creating, this game where we have lots of different consumers. So we have crypto play to earners, we have crypto enthusiasts, and then we also have mainstream gamers and then very competitive gamers. Really, there's different spend levels. The play to earners are there to really apply their skill and play a lot and grind, whereas the other guys, maybe they finish work at 5 and then they just play 2-3 hours with their friends, and they want to climb up the leaderboards to flex with their friends, and so, or maybe they want an aesthetic, etc. The point is that these guys, they're there to spend. They're recreational players.
Yeah.
So the point is that by creating this kind of like multi-game economy, where when you play, you have an NFT and you level up the NFT. Essentially, what happens is that by bringing new game modes and by changing the metas of different games, so if we see, wow, this game that we've done is super popular, and then we look at the economy and we're like, this is interesting. In the economy, there's this game that's kind of very hard, but the items that you win from it, there's very low supply of it, right? So what we do is we take that very popular game and we say, okay, let's take these assets coming from this game and let's make it meta in this very popular game. So what happens there? What happens there is that you're basically creating this opportunity whereby all the play to earners, so you've got all the competitive players and stuff who are like, okay, now in order for us to be competitive, we need these items. But wait a second, in order to get these items, we're going to play this other game that we're not good at, and it's hard to get them. So then what do the play to earners do? The play to earners go, hey, wait a second, all these guys want these items, you get these items from here. Let's go play this game, get good at this game, and they kind of fill in that demand supply, because it's essential for there to always be, you know, from an economical point of view, demand and supply. And that's where we can kind of look at what's going on and we can say, okay, this is interesting, let's set this up. So now you as a player, you know, maybe you've only spent, you know, $5 in the game and you've got a level 1-8 and stuff, but then instead of playing, you know, the BlockApeScissors competitive game where everyone's very competitive and playing, you know, next month it's just like, this item is meta here. And you're like, hey, I'll go play this racing game. No one else is playing. No one else is good at it. You get very good at it and you get these items and then you sell them on to the people playing the other game. And the point is that, assuming that game is enjoyable and they want to, you know, they want to compete and they want to get good at it, they're going to be buying these items. And it's kind of similar to how, I guess, World of Warcraft, you know, worked before, just that it's a lot easier to have that mechanism working. And really the idea is we avoid having any, we avoid ever having governments kind of just outright ban us for like gamble this, gamble that. We also build a very sustainable model, because if the popular games are very popular and the competition is very real, then boom, you create this thing where like all of a sudden big supply gap and massive opportunity for players to come in. And by continuously looking at this and changing the meta, which is essential to keep players involved and engaged, it's just continuous opportunities, you know? And yeah, this is kind of like a way that, you know, normally normal game companies, you know, what they'll do is that they'll sell you items and then they'll change the meta and then they'll send you new items and they'll change the meta and they'll sell you new items. What we're doing instead is, you know, you win and earn those items, and then the meta changes and we allow the players to be the ones to actually generate those items and sell them onto each other. So it's just, yeah, it's the beauty of the blockchain, really. It creates
it's a good
market, you know, new opportunities for people to really take advantage of. And then with regards to the staking that we currently had, we actually only had 2 rounds of locked staking back in August and September, so we don't actually have that anymore. We have an LP farming thing where, you know, people provide liquidity, but that's not really, neither of those is currently tied into the game. There'll be the tribe.
Okay. Makes sense.
But that's not like the yield you generate there is in-game tokens. It's kind of tricky. Here is where you start falling into a couple of the legal considerations of not crossing into DeFi. So we want to stick to like GameFi. We're making games, and we don't want to eventually have issues with people saying you're doing financial services, etc. So it's pretty interesting. You know, one of the things we're kind of looking at is potentially rewarding people with LP tokens, because LP tokens don't have monetary value. But anyways, that's all stuff that has to be really kind of looked out. And also to some degree, whilst we're developing games, improving the user experience and kicking off the economy, we'll also see how the landscape plays out. You know, there's a lot of congressional hearings right now in the US where Congress is saying, you know, understanding about crypto, a lot of stuff is happening in different countries. So it kind of remains to be seen what we eventually resolve on. Yeah, I think that's most of it. The token has that base booster mechanic. So if you hold bass, you know, you're going to level up more. And the idea really is that it's kind of a fairer experience for the gamer. If the games are very successful, lots of people buy bass because they want to level up quicker. But the point is that once you're done doing that, you can sell on the bass. And then the fifth one is the NFT items are going to be collateralized by bass. What that means is that when you go and mint one of these items, you're going to have to pay bass, but you can disenchant the item. The point is that as we shift the meta between different items, then, you know, maybe an item goes out of meta and you go and you're like, okay, I'm going to disenchant it. And you won't get 100% of the bass back. Right now, we're looking at 90%. So you get most of the bass back. The reason why we don't want 100% is if not, you just trigger loot boxes continuously until you get what you want. So there has to be that kind of mechanism. But the point is, yeah, you have an item for lots of time playing with it, and then eventually it's out of meta and you disenchant it. But then here's where it starts getting interesting, because what we can do here, once again, looking at that economy, is we can say, all right, here's what happened. We had these items and you could win them for 3 months. Loads of people won them, loads of people play with them. Now they're out of meta. Loads of people disenchanted them. And now it's just a super rare item. No one has it. Let's bring it back into meta. And you bring it back into meta, probably not the full-on mainstream meta, because then it's like, you know, there's very few people that can have the item, etc. But, you know, we want to have lots of different games, so we have a lot of flexibility here. But then the point is that you might, you know, it almost creates like a play to earn ability where you're like an antiques collector. You know, you may just play and you may just win common items, which are going to be a lot easier to play. But then if you're patient, I had one friend, he played loads of CSGO and he built up a massive item inventory. And then, like, you know, 5 years later, he was like, yeah, like this is worth like a couple $1,000. And I was like, what? Like, you know, I just like accumulating these things and kind of treating them like antiques. And, you know, the point is anyone can see the state of the blockchain. So if you're play to earning and you just look at the blockchain and you're like, wow, everyone's disenchanting this item. I've got 10 of them. I'm just going to keep them and see what happens in the future. And this is, you know, where we just start, you know, really shifting things and creating new opportunities for new different players, but also keep changing up the meta, because that's essential to keep, you know, everyone engaged with what's going on. You know, new game mode, new season, etc.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for that, Dan. That was, I love talking to any GameFi projects, and everyone has their own take on how NFTs are going to be incorporated into the future parts of the game. I don't know if you guys have heard of Cradles. If you haven't, have a look into it. But they have an interesting mechanic there. So I really love what you guys are doing. Yes, we do. So I just want to be mindful of everyone's 90-minute attention span there, Matt. But we've got a few questions. If you guys don't mind staying on just for maybe a little bit longer just to answer those. Are you both okay just for maybe another 20 minutes?
Sure. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. Cool. So I'll start going through some of these. So from Era D Velasco, what are the rewards / incentives for being on the leaderboard?
Depends which leaderboard, depends for which game, depends what you did, because they're going to be very diverse. There will be kind of an immortalized, you know, sort of lifetime leaderboard, but, you know, sort of taking it to a more granular perspective, there will be different leaderboards for each different type of game, and there will also be leaderboard, I would say, filters or subcomponents or sections that are relevant to, you know, people that are kind of in your type of level or power, if you will. So those rewards then need to correlate specifically to what you're going to be getting. Those rewards can range from things like loot box tokens. So you have loot box tokens that allow you to mint items or allow you to mint specific items to altcoins that are relevant to our shitcoin adventures per se. Or you might be able to get token rewards that allow you to breed new apes, upgrade apes, make new items, upgrade items, or create new power-ups and upgrade them as well. So there's going to be very different reward structures for different gameplays at different levels, as well as individual, co-op, PvP, tribe. I mean, yeah, it depends really where you sit and what you've played and, under what circumstances. But these are likely to be, the reward structures that we have until we get approval for, different types of rewards, which I don't think that we actually have yet. But Dan also will have a different take on this, which I think will be valuable as well. But I think, the real answer is it will be 100% based on what that actual ranking is, and the context of it will be relevant to the reward that is being given.
Yeah. Right. So, just to kind of make it simpler, there won't be a direct monetary reward in order, as Matt said, to avoid issues with gambling legislation until we can eventually get to the point of being licensed. This is to do with kind of where both myself and Matt are based, and therefore the kind of rules that we have to play by. But the thing is that you kind of similar, I guess, again, to compare to Hearthstone. Sorry, I've played so much Hearthstone. You hit like bronze, gold, etc., and then based on the different rank that you hit, you essentially get 5 card packs, 10 card packs, etc. And we'll model that with regards to you get X bananas, X jungle essence. You might get gold plated loot box tokens that give you access to way higher probability loot boxes. And then really the biggest benefit that we want to weave in is the items that are going to become meta in the next season are the ones that players who achieve a certain rank within a certain season able to get. So the moment the next season kicks off, the guys who immediately get those items are the guys who performed well on the previous one. So immediately there, if you achieve a very high rank, then you have a lot of these items which are required to be competitive and stuff, and they're also rarer because they're just new items coming to the meta and stuff. And then you can trade them, you can sell them, or you can keep playing with them and keep leveling up to get to the new rank. It's really up to the player to decide. Really, right now, as Matt said, we're not looking at giving out a direct monetary reward within the game because we want to see how things play out. We want to see, partly what South Korea did, partly what the US. I don't know how familiar some of you guys are with poker, with what happened with like Black Friday in 2008 with poker. So like the US government just went goodbye online poker, and they just blacked it all out. All these players had money on these websites and they couldn't get it, and it was just panic and very bad for poker in general. It remains to be seen whether a similar event occurs with play to earn. So we want to avoid bad things happening, but we want to provide opportunities for all the play to earners out there, and for this crypto phenomenon that's kind of coming up. And then if in a year's time, this year, next year, we get a license, or if we see the landscape shifting in a favorable position where governments are like, hey, it's not really bad if these tokens have monetary value and people get them and they're playing with them and it's not gambling and we're going to allow it, then it's just like, boom, all right, fair enough. The tokens that you're going to be getting are ERC20 tokens. So that's just like, okay, add liquidity, and here we go, similar to what Axie's done with SLP and stuff. But really, looking at SLP, looking at different play-to-earn tokens, not to, you know, criticize them. They were amazing because they were the first to kind of build these economies. Long-term, the sustainability has to stem from creating fun games which people are willing to spend on, kind of like World of Warcraft did. World of Warcraft had lots of play-to-earners, guys who turned it into a way to generate income, but it was because it was such a fun game that you had loads of people who were playing it recreationally and therefore spending and willing to buy those things from the other players.
I think also to add to that, sorry, Nick, it just...
No, that's okay. That's good. I love this.
It's, I think what's really important is there's also a level of abstraction between what's being provided to players and the actual potential monetary value of either utilization and turning that into something that has monetary value or the tradability of it. So this by itself actually deters botters because there's no immediate, you know, redemption of funds or anything of monetary value. So it takes a lot more time or a lot more thought process or pattern for them to, you know, implement these types of strategies for heavy botting and utilization, which lends itself to a much more fair and diverse economy in that sense. So there's it's not just to do with regulation and gambling, and although we are heavily focused on preparing for the worst and delivering the best, it's also to do with trying to create, you know, the best type of infrastructure and economic model that is going to lend itself to something that is balanced, that we can also, you know, sort of adjust the supply and demand in a variety of different ways, because that's really what it comes down to. So reward structures and all those types of things can be expanded or contracted in different ways through supply and demand of those tokens, as well as how much being rewarded to players based on what happens with the meta and the focus and the density of players in different areas. So, you know, giving out monetary rewards is in some cases a fantastically attractive thing, but in other cases it can really also hurt the project that it's attached to, because if you have people that rely on this potential reward to be translated into, you know, fiat as an example, that is going to create enormous sell pressure on whatever that token is, and natively, you know, it's going to happen if you gear it towards that outcome, because they need the money to survive. So, you know, you got to think about what's going to happen. Whereas if there is diversity and it is quite dynamic and there's abstraction, but it's one of those things where the people that get attracted to the ecosystem itself are more likely to be there for the exciting games, for the community, for using secondary functions for their assets. You know, all of these different types of things we're trying to create for, you know, active diversity is really important. And then that allows that smaller element of play to earn to really thrive in its secondary nature of what we're building. So it's I think it's an important thing that projects look at these days is to not just cater to pumps and dumps and those sorts of things, because it doesn't lead to sustainable outcomes, but it also just it can actually burn a lot of people. Like, for example, if someone got in right at the top, you know, they built out a team, or and they're managing a team or whatever, they put all this money into it, and then the value of it goes down. That hurts them, but it also hurts the scholars. If those scholars got involved in a project, you know, expecting to get $10 a day, and the value of that, you know, token output goes down dramatically, they have to work harder. They have to do more, you know, to grind more, or potentially they might not be able to get that same $10 a day with the time that they had available for it. So that kind of, you know, fluctuation potentially leads to a lot of other problems that can hurt people. So having the balance is hugely important.
Yeah, I mean, and when as gamers, we're looking for mass adoption of this new GameFi, and there's a GameFi 2.0 coming in. Doesn't help if projects are coming in and they're not taking these things into consideration. Kind of again, like the long-term view of what we put into the industry now and what we build now. And what I love about what you guys are doing are bringing in that the Web 2.0 talent into Web 3.0 and really making this kind of the place that we want to be in. And actually, that's a nice segue into a question from, and thank you guys for the explanation, by the way, from Shanley Louise Montano. They've asked, is there a scholarship program for the game at the moment?
There certainly is. So we have our GAMESTER apes, which are our NFT collections that provide access into the beta in order to earn surveys based on feedback. They can be lent out to champions, which is our basic scholarship model. There's going to be a variety of ways that this is going to be applied in future in terms of the scholarship and champion model. And I think it's probably better that Dan explains this because he's better with the specific the specific information of how it can be applied and how things work on a technical level to do with escrows and smart contracts and people's concerns about lending and all those sorts of things. So if Dan, do you want to speak to that? I think that would be good.
Yeah. So with the beta testing, the way it's going to work is that there's going to be, you need to have a GAMESTER NFT. And then right now there's BAS requirements. We're kind of going to see how our community reacts with, the value of price, and, the value of BAS increasing and stuff, and what kind of missions we want there. But the base idea is that a user who has this GAMESTER ape can champion someone else. So you can find someone and they give it to you. Right now there's a 75-25% split, which was voted on by our community. But this isn't fixed per se. There'll be future votes, future ideas, depending on, because right now we're only in beta phase. The game is only in beta phase, so we don't yet have that economy out. We don't yet have that marketplace out. And so, we had to control things in order to not damage the token. But as we come out of this beta phase, as more games start coming out, etc., we expect the scholarship model to be pretty good. It's unlikely to be the opportunity whereby someone can continuously play all the time. But the idea is that there's going to be lots of different play to earn opportunities. So a play to earner, maybe he's signed up and he's being championed as a BAS beta champion. And so, 10 hours of his week he dedicates towards playing the BAS beta, to seeing different things, etc., and then to completing a survey and giving us feedback on these new game releases. And then, he gets paid for it, and then he can clearly go off and work on other games. So that's one. The second aspect is with the actual game and with the NFTs and the winning of the assets. There'll be a similar escrow-based mechanic whereby someone who owns these NFTs, like an NFT whale, can essentially lend them over to your wallet and you can play with them. We're still, as I mentioned before, figuring out the exact specifics here, because the point is that as you play, you win these in-game tokens, and then you can use them to make loot boxes, to level up your apes, etc. If, on the base level, the way we're thinking of it is that there's a profit split. So the owner gets 50% of the bananas, the other person gets 50%. But clearly then, where is the opportunity for the scholar to eventually get his own NFT? So this is something that I'm kind of looking at, potentially allowing people to lend their apes so that players can breed with those apes and get their own ape NFT, and then a mechanic whereby up until they've earned 10,000 bananas or something, then those bananas go back, a percentage of those bananas goes back to the thing, almost like a loaning mechanism. So we're trying to innovate here, figure out what players want, and we're likely going to bring this into being through like a beta. I'll leave it at that. I really need to run. Someone's at the door. I'll be back.
Oh, okay, no worries. Thanks, Dan. That's all good. Let me. So yeah, thank you for that. I think Dan, he'll come back in a second. But next question, from Prodigy Jackson. The plans and the ideas behind it are all great and innovative. The difficult part is integrating them all together for it to be playable without bugs, long-term replayability, have sustainable play-to-earn mechanisms and economy, an anti-cheat in place, and when can we expect all this? And is this doable? How can we avoid Cyberpunk 2077? So that's a long question. Sorry.
Yeah. Look, I mean, this is why we've done several things. So we've really looked at the in-game economy. How do we compartmentalize it so that if it needs a small adjustment, we can do that? How do we potentially adjust for new trends? How do we apply balances both on-chain and off-chain with a variety of different potential assets that are available now, as well as catering for future trends? How do we make this, kind of flexible in the sense that it can cater to NFT tech that's here, as well as NFT tech that will be evolving, asset tech that will be evolving, new standards, new different approaches, new operations, and all these things. But the real element here, I think, that is the elephant in the room is having extremely high quality game developers that really understand games and understand all of the different processes and stages. And for me personally, this has been a massive eye-opening journey. I had no idea about the complexity of how these things come together, of a truly magnificent game. I have so much greater appreciation for publishers and labels and all the work that goes into some of these titles. It's just enormous. As an example, I was introduced to this concept of pre-production, which is just taking a very small segment of the game. Obviously, you have your GDD, so your game design document, where you flesh out all of your different stages and what you want to be working towards over time. But you have what's called a vertical slice that gives you a representation of a level or something like this that you can then extrapolate and really investigate and build into. That pre-production covers all of the different elements that you will need for that game to essentially understand all of the concepts, all of the art, all of the textures of the mesh, the polygons, if it's low fidelity, high fidelity, how much needs to be rigged. All of these elements then get sort of thrown in. So you've made the unknown known, which is really, really highly important. And from where I come from in terms of a very heavy IT tech, project background, a project management background, it's all about making that unknown known. Because with the known, you can schedule, you can use finite information. This is highly important for us because the level of quality that we're now dealing with for game development allows us to really be quite precise with what this game is going to look like, how's it going to work, what audience is it targeting, how do we prepare for content to tease the community. All these elements are so much more polished and available. What that does lend itself to for us in future is to understand exactly what the key drivers, what the key incentives, what the points are, what the playability is of these games. Because A, our product council is full of gamers, but B, our game development team is full of really highly successful game development people who have worked on so many good quality games. They know what it takes. They know what's required. We leverage that expertise. Yeah, we leverage that expertise to then apply it with the technology that Dan and his team is building. And we mesh the two together, and we have pre-production, we have pre-alpha, we have alpha, then we have beta, and sometimes a second beta. But then meshing all of these things together, this is why, in terms of our tech roadmap and our product roadmap, there is an iterative release of all of our different tokens, and it's done a very specific way. So we have lots of different games coming out. We also have lots of different things coming out. So there are the loot boxes, there's banana farming, there's the marketplace, the NFT launchpad, and then you have also berry juice, jungle essence, and there's another one which I'm forgetting. There's just so many. But all these things they all get released over time. If we do a big bang, as an example in a waterfall approach, there are so many things there that can go wrong. If we do it iteratively and we understand the nature of how it applies to games, community response, how it's interacted with, then it allows us to build on that momentum. Everything should be done in small chunks, in bite-sized pieces, in releasable, shippable amounts. If it's not, we have no option to course correct if we're off course. This is really, one of the fundamental principles of agile software development, and it's really hard to apply core agile specifically to smart contracts because they're built like firmware and should be treated as things that are ever present. So we have waterfall approach for smart contracts, but very flexible, agile, iterative development for things like games, the ecosystem, different things can be added in there modular. And I think in wrapping this question or answer up is that we need to cater to our technical constraints, which we have with our delivery, especially in relation to the Web3 side. But plan for an ecosystem that leverages off the ability to adapt to change. Whether it be that we need to change emissions or rewards or any of the balancing in relation to the economy, that then is fed in from the games. So if we can balance from all angles that are flexible, we're setting ourselves up for success. And I think this is one thing that's really, really important. I hope that anyone who's watching from other projects or ecosystems takes a leaf from our book here. Not so that we're going to be the best or that we are the best, but we looked at all the potential problems that can come up. Because if you build something that is rigid, yes, it might be here and now and you might have some immediate success, but if you can't pivot, you can't adapt to change, and you can't be flexible and pick up new adoption of trends, this stuff is going to change so fast. And if you can't adjust things, because if you get it wrong and you launch the whole thing as a big monolithic rigid concrete block, you're in trouble. You're in really big trouble. So we've looked at this and went, okay, how in something that is really quite challenging, where you have the rigid structure of Web3 and smart contracts, as well as an economic model that is going to be ever present, and games, and then all of the different types of characters that are going to try and get the best out of the system. So you obviously have good actors and you have bad actors, and they need to coexist. You can't eradicate all the bad actors, otherwise it will eliminate attractiveness for certain aspects. What you can do is cater to them in a way that allows a balance across all things. And even Yat from Animoca said the other week, there is no way in the metaverse or in blockchain gaming that you are going to rid every single bot. And that really sat with me. I was like, really? And then I thought about it and went, well, yeah. I mean, if you look at things like pre-sales and those sorts of things, on Uniswap or PancakeSwap as an example, they get absolutely smashed by bots. because it's the best thing for them. You know, HFT, all these things lend themselves better to bots than humans. It's just the way that it is. Blockchain gaming, repetitive gaming, robotic gaming will be better for bots. We have to create experiences that are very dynamic and have, in some ways, incomplete information, or very, very challenging strategies to really eliminate botting. You know, you would have to be really sophisticated. So there's opportunity costs there to think about. But, you know, balancing the ecosystem is going to be, you know, there's no illusions. It's going to be a challenge. But if we have the ability to, you know, change every single one of the 32 billion colors that exist, you know, in that color palette, we have the opportunity to make these really small changes where necessary, which is what we're building and what we're doing. So, you know, whichever game we put out, if it's wildly popular, then we can change the meta. We can also change the output for the rewards, the tokens, the leaderboards, all those things. The thing is, it is all adjustable in terms of those outputs and how people can be rewarded, how they're going to interact. So I think it's a really important feature of our ecosystem, because it won't just be us in terms of the team, it'll also be the community that are helping drive some of these decisions as we move forward into a more DAO-based you know, decision-making process and protocol. We're already engaging several aspects to do with really key decisions, and we really appreciate community involvement. But, you know, moving forward, I guess to a key narrative that we want to drive here is that, you know, the guilds and everyone who's involved with those guilds, we really want to get a close relationship with everyone in that community to help us build and shape the ecosystem. Like, if something's wrong, we want to know, you know, and we'll fix it because it's based on that community involvement. If we have, you know, amazing ideas for games, guess what? We'll build it. You know, it's just as simple as that.
Makes sense, right?
we just what we want to build an ecosystem and a project that people love, and it's really just simple. So relying on community involvement input is what I think makes and breaks projects, and we will do, you know, the best that we can by our community, and in terms of listening to them and making sure that we involve everyone through those stages that are vitally important.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And then actually, there's some a nice comment from Prodigy Jackson who said that. Okay, so it's both from him. So awesome innovation on bringing on traditional gamers and ape together strong, which is kind of funny. He had another question here, and this is more so in regards to one of Dan's insights earlier. He said, good idea on the supply and demand. What happens when there is an oversupply but no demand? Realistically, players go away. This happens to even games with the greatest replayability, CSGO, Dota 2, COD. Will you let the economy stay as is, or will you do something about it, especially if no one is buying the NFTs from players who got it in other games, for example?
Yeah. So, if we achieve the level of success of games like COD and Dota 2, like we're not doing bad.
Yeah, that's true.
But the aspect there is that because we have that disenchantment mechanism, as in the items will be backed by BAS. The idea clearly is that as more players join into the BASverse, and this is where like we bring the element of, if an external consumer is buying an NFT, they're minting an NFT, to them they pay with their card, but what happens is that an amount of BAS is actually bought and then it's locked into the smart contract. Concept here is that if there's an oversupply of a certain item, people start disenchanting and they get their BAS back. They don't get 100% back, but right now we're on that 90%. Really, the reason why we don't want 100%, as I said, was part of it, I guess, is an operator fee for maintaining infrastructure and stuff, but also it's to avoid the BAS, you just kind of getting lots of different loot boxes in order to do that. But the point is, yeah, you disenchant it and you get that BAS back. So sure, the value of BAS can fluctuate, but you know, the idea is you get that BAS back and then you can mint new items, so more new relevant items. So we expect that kind of thing to create a regulation of the supply. Clearly, what happens if, you know, all of a sudden we start losing lots of players, and you know, then yeah, there's clearly that oversupply. You know, you know, everyone has that kind of problem, as in if our product isn't engaging and the game's not good, well then yeah, there's going to be, you know, play to earners are going to lose that opportunity to earn. But really, that's why our focus is going to be around that, you know, making these very fun games, making these metas so that they keep players engaged, they keep people competitive, and they keep people having a lot of fun. You know, Matt was saying dopamine releases, and if we're able to do that, the kind of market, the market in general, like, you know, any kind of market usually tends to be pretty intelligent, as in the way that people are going to fill in the gaps of demand and supply, the way people are going to start disenchanting big supply, and the way we're going to kind of analyze the big picture and kind of like, you know, picture us in like a room with like 10 monitors looking at everything that's happening, because this is where we want to get to, like all of that data to basically make sure that we don't have like that situation where you have massive oversupply of an item, everyone's just kind of selling it, and then it just drops down to zero. And the idea too that they're collateralized by BAS is key, clearly, because the point is that it can't drop below that BAS minimum price, and you can disenchant it and get your BAS back. So yeah, I hope that kind of answers that question.
Yeah, for sure. I hope so for Prodigy. So thanks for that question. Next one, and this will probably be maybe one of the last ones here, if that's okay. So RTZ Shing has a nice question on the tribe. So are there any cooldowns once you challenge a tribe alpha? Presuming the tribes are made up of a guild, do you get kicked out unanimously for acting against the hierarchy? Fair question. What can stop you from being kicked out because you did something you shouldn't do to the guild as a lone player who just got invited?
Yeah, so now that I think about it, we actually haven't had a discussion about how someone can get kicked out of the guild. Really,
yeah, that's interesting.
The mechanic though that we kind of discuss in the game theory about it is that, you know, it'll be prestigious to create a tribe, and there'll be the tribe alpha, and then only people with like max level apes will be able to challenge the alpha. So we're trying to bring that burn mechanic for very high level apes. Now, the point is that one, it's kind of there's a barrier to creating a tribe, and two, there needs to be a clear incentive for various people in the tribe, but most importantly for the tribe alpha. And yeah, when you challenge him, you both put like a max level ape at stake, and whoever loses, that ape essentially dies. So that's like a way in which you can lose your NFT. But at the same time, the benefits of being a tribe leader should outweigh the risk of losing that NFT. And you know, the tribe alpha also needs to be, he either needs to be a very good leader, and so he may not be a really good gamer, but if he's doing an excellent job for the tribe, finding investors, finding very good players, then it's unlikely he's going to get challenged. If instead he's doing a bad job, then he needs to be very good at the game to kind of maintain that spot in the hierarchy. So clearly, if you challenge the alpha and you lose your ape. Right now, we don't plan on kicking you out of the tribe. We'll probably put a voting mechanism to let players in and out of tribes, although it needs to be efficient, because massive voting mechanisms can be very inefficient. Like, we don't want there to be like a 2-week wait time to join a tribe. We want it to be fairly quicker. So more information on that will come. But really, yeah, the idea really that I don't think I touched on is that within tribe wars, what we're essentially going to do is that, say, you know, two tribes compete in BlockApeScissors or on a racing game, etc., the tribe that wins essentially gets NFTs deposited into the tribe. And those NFTs can't be sold, but they can clearly be used and lent to the different players of the tribe. The point is that if it brings that long-term value of like, if a tribe performs well across different games over time, they kind of amass like a treasure chest of like NFTs. The NFTs won't be like one off to the tribe, because then, you know, they might be unfair meta wise, but they'll be like, you know, high level items essentially. They'll be rare NFTs. Therefore, like, a tribe that wins a lot accumulates these NFTs, and then they can essentially get high skilled players who not only get that higher average BAS, but when they play, they can be lent that, you know, rare NFT, making them more competitive. And the point is, yeah, so here you start to build like, you know, look 2-3 years forward. If a tribe is very successful and it's become massive, you know, like, you know, there's 5,000 players in the tribe, and there's like, you know, it's very well organized, and there's all these different items and different people managing the different items and stuff, and different people competing across different things. And then that's where like these alpha, like becoming the alpha, really becomes like, you know, a thing. I've played some games which are like MMORTSs where you have this kind of political intrigue, and the idea is, yeah, if two big personalities start facing each other off in a tribe, they might, you know, challenge one challenges the other, one of his apes dies, and then he uses another high level ape. And the idea really is that if you really have like a big kind of civil, you know, war within these tribes, then these guys are going to start buying up these high level apes from the market, you know, and that's where you create more demand, because you're creating a burn mechanic, and you're creating demand. And the reason why you create that demand is because these guys, you know, probably if you're a tribe alpha, you probably got cash lying around, and at some stage, you know, you really want to, you know, you're in this war, and there's, you know, you've been in this tribe, you have friends in it, you have people who you've been working with for a long time, and you really want to become the alpha, and, you know, you don't like this guy. But the point is, you can't just go make another tribe, because that you can, you know, there's a barrier of entry to making that tribe, but also that tribe won't have all these NFTs that bring prestige to your tribe. They won't have the name, they won't have the already established player base and stuff. So, you know, and from the point of view of the alpha, you've got to politically be intelligent. You can't just blindly say, I'm going to let whoever, all these very strong, big personalities join your tribe. You need people to trust you. You need people to respect you. And that's where like the political element of creating these tribes comes in. And just as a little like bite-sized info, I got this kind of inspiration to do this, watching this very interesting documentary on apes in Go Africa. How they, you know, so how they manage this tribe. I really recommend the documentary. You watch it.
I love when you told me this, because it was like, I just spent 2 to 3 hours watching this ape documentary with this place in Congo, and it's the biggest known tribe ever, and went into enormous detail. I was like, holy crap. It's just absolutely hilarious. But it works. Like it was fascinating to understand all these different mechanics and, you know, all of the primitive instincts that they have, this kind of pack leader mentality. You know, it's really quite fascinating. So to apply that inside our own jungle oasis, so to speak, is I think it's only fitting.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's based off that, I just wanted to give you guys a few comments from the community. From Raniel, the team is incredible. They are passionate about the game. From Julie Ann D. Guzman, thanks UniX for funding BlockApeScissors. So Prodigy said that. From Jezreel, Jerozo, the whole idea for the game was so good that the play to earn part of it was only just a cherry on top of a very good ice cream. So we'd wrap up with that one. But first off, thank you, Matt, Dan, for coming on. We definitely have to get on again. and have some more esoterical and technical talks and gamer talks. We can even just have a whole segment then of us speaking about Hearthstone or Warcraft 3, right?
Warcraft 3, bring it on. Yes.
Warcraft 3.
I'm a huge RTS player, so Warcraft 3, StarCraft 2, bring it on. Love it. But yeah, honestly, Nick, it's been amazing and really appreciate everyone tuning in and such great questions from yourself. And it's been a lot of fun. Can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, for sure. And one last thing before we leave, we actually will do the raffle winner. So maybe Matt, you wanted to give some insight to the community about what BlockApeScissors will be doing for this giveaway for that one.
I actually don't.
Let me just check it. I think I have it here. Sorry, that's
I do.
on me.
I could. It's not on my run sheet.
No, that's okay. So usually, with a lot of our partners that come on, we do like a little spin wheel giveaway. Remy, you want to start that up? GameStar NFT. There you go. We have a GameStar NFT up for grabs for the community.
Round and round she goes. Where's stuff nobody knows?
One GameStar NFT. Yeah.
Best of luck.
Best of luck to everyone. And we have Prodigy. There you go. Prodigy. Congratulations.
Prodigy Jackson.
Ape Together Strong. That's Prodigy Jackson.
Well done. Well done. Thank you.
Fitting.
Very much so.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I know that we've gone a bit longer, but I highly recommend that everyone watch it from start to finish. Some great insight from Matt, some really good insight into the game from Dan, and the whole game looks amazing, to be honest. So I can't wait till we create a tribe in there, and we'll play nice. Okay, we'll play nice. I promise you guys, we'll play nice. UniX
To start with.
To start with.
Yeah.
We'll find our alliances first, but thank you everyone for joining, and we'll see you on the next AMA. Thank you.
Can't wait. Thanks very much, everyone. Cheers.
Thank you.